Welcome back to the garage, ladies and gents, and thanks so much for joining us. So we're going to start throwing this old Sportster back together, and I'm sure it's not going to happen without its bumps and bruises along the way. But first, we're going to start out with getting this primary drive back on, and most importantly, we got to swap that clutch basket out. So let's head over to the workbench and see what we're dealing with. So we talked about this clutch basket in one of the earlier videos, but to kind of go through it again, this basket, and this is the entire thing, the entire assembly with the clutch and the actual shell. This basket was used, I think Harley put these on in like 84 or 86 to 1990. I don't know for sure. You can correct me if you want in the comments below. But I do know in 1991 is whenever they switched from doing this. And really the big difference, at least the big difference that I know of, is right here. So you can see you've actually got the rotor for the rotor and stator attached to the actual clutch basket. And you can also see that, we've got some magnets missing here. Now, the significance here is that these things are absolutely notorious for these magnets breaking free. You don't want that, and also breaking, and that's obviously what we've got in this situation here. Now, unfortunately, the fix for this is to get a new clutch basket shell, and they ain't cheap. Now, I have seen online where some folks have gone in and actually taken these magnets and re-glued them. Now, before you say, oh, no, don't glue them. Well, I mean, that's how they did it from the factory. Now, we know it doesn't work that great from the factory, but if you're in a pinch and you've got some whole magnets you can put in there, it'll probably work. But let's be honest, gluing magnets back in is probably just going to be a band-aid fix and they'll probably come loose again. Thankfully, though, in 1991, Harley in their infinite wisdom swapped these to be behind the front motor sprocket. So if you've got a newer bike and you pull the primary off and you got to replace the stator or the rotor, it's going to be up behind that one. Now, honestly, getting to both of them, you've still got to pull the entire primary drive off. So work-wise, it's really no difference. The problem is this basket. So we did get us a new basket, and let me show you what we got. So here's what we got. I can actually show you guys a little closer. Right there, imported of course. And I don't think Harley makes these anymore. I think these are aftermarket only. Let's take a look at it here. It is packaged nice. That's good, I guess. Get some of this stuff out of the way. At least they put it in a box that's actually going to protect it. And there we are. Now there is one major drawback to these guys right here. They're $500. That's right. You feel like you got to get a dang loan out just to replace your clutch basket, but it's kind of what it is. But there is one benefit. Let me show you here. So what they did here in the aftermarket, I can get these kind of side by side, is you can see there's no magnets in here. That's because the magnets are actually inside behind this ring. So yes, you're spending a fortune on these, but I guess in theory, if you're putting these on your bike, at least you're going to keep magnets from breaking loose again. Now, whether or not this actual aftermarket shell is worth a crap, I honestly have no idea. But that's what we're going to do. So let's get these swapped out and see if I can drop the clutch or the clutch pack down in here and we can get this sucker on the bike. Now, what's nice is the only thing holding these together is just one snap ring, and then you just basically, for lack of better terms, separate your clutch pack from the basket. Now, I'm sure this is going to require a little bit of motivation, but just don't go hitting these with your hammer. You do not want to do these on this. So just get, just get creative. Try to figure out a way to do it. That's what I'm going to do. Boy, is it just me, or is getting snap ring pliers started sometimes just weird? I think that's right. Woo! Using our cheap Amazon pliers here. Well, I got it started. There we are. So now you can see it's already wanting to come up, and of course it's kind of locked in there. So I got to figure out something to get this separated without beating the crap out of it. Oh, there. We got it. All separated. There's some rust in there. And then here's our clutch pack right here all together. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I think I'm actually going to go toss this guy in the freezer a little bit to see if it'll help pop it in the new basket. But if not, I think I got an idea to help press this in the other one if we need to. Okay, our clutch pack here has been in the freezer, so let's place our bets to see if this is actually going to drop in there. I'm going to make sure I don't pinch myself here somehow. I'm going to be the pessimist and say it won't. We're going to have to press it in somehow, but let's at least see. Look at that. You've got to be kidding, and I'm glad I didn't pinch the crap out of my hands doing that. I think it dropped in. Did I get... Yeah, I can see where the snap ring needs to go. Wow. So if you're doing this, take your clutch back and put it in the freezer, because that just saved me a lot of headache right there. Oh, that's crazy. That is good news. Thought I was going to have to get really creative and get our snap ring on here. Of course, now our snap ring's not wanting to go on. Of course. There it is. Wow. Look at that. So just threw that in the freezer. It dropped right in. And that guy's now ready to go back on the bike. Well, that's not gonna... This ain't gonna do it. There she is. Whoops. And of course, don't forget your stator before you put everything on. That would not be a good thing. It's so nice to be getting this stuff back on the bike. And get the gasket lined up. That would be good now, wouldn't it? Let's see if I can do all this in one motion like you're supposed to be able to. Well, maybe not. Take two. Just got to be careful you don't let that clutch basket, it'll kind of slam home once those magnets engage on that rotor or on that stator. Okay. All right, it's pissing me off. There's part of it. There. Shop manuals always say to put everything on at once. I always have to kind of do a hybrid of it. There we are. There. On. Engaged. Oh, there. That went right in. Let's see if I can do this without putting a pipe on this ratchet. Whew. It is a workout. There it is. Beautiful. Now we are waiting on some parts before we can put our primary cover on. So we'll go ahead and try to fish this thing through here. Probably should have paid attention to how this was routed. Let's see here. I think this is the right way. Can always be redone, I guess. Hung up on freaking everything. Is that gonna work? Maybe. There she is. I think that'll do it. I hope. Our hookup here for the voltage regulator was actually the right length. I'm kind of shocked. As before, everything was just kind of hanging out in here. But this will do it for the wiring under the seat. So all we have left now, wiring-wise, is the front brake light pressure switch. And we'll get to that once we get the wheel on in the caliper. We're going to spruce up these guys here a little bit, this battery tray and top motor mounts. We'll do a little sandpaper scuffing. Now this is not the top motor mount that came on this bike. This is for, I forget what years this was. I don't know if it was 91 and up or like 95 and up or whatever, but this is what we're running with because I want to have my choke over on this side, and then since we're running a left side petcock, I can just run it straight down through there. I figured it was a worthwhile pickup. Well, it's going to be a few days before we get our last little parts in we need for that primary cover. So we'll get these sprayed up here and see if we can get them back on the bike. Full restoration, just like factory. Better get some ventilation in here. Just a little bit more on this one, and I think our factory restore will be complete. All right, that should do it. Well, I forgot that I need to spruce up this bracket here for this headlight. I should have done this before I mounted it up. Well, get out of there. All right. Just like new. We're still waiting on a part, so I reckon we'll go ahead and get some of these small things on. Now the cover is on. I've just got a few bolts holding it on just to protect everything. And actually what I'm waiting on for this primary, there's a small thrust washer that goes down on the shifter shaft on the inside. And you can find them on eBay. They don't make them. Harley doesn't make them anymore. I'm sure you can find them, in aftermarket too. Probably could run without it, but with the way this thing had all the shifting problems to start, I'm going to make sure we do everything possible to try to make it right. So you might be wondering why on earth replace the top motor mount here in the middle, and that's a great question. So the one that came on it, the factory one, of course, They have, I'm pretty sure it's like a mount tab that goes below it. Now, it wasn't on this one when I got it. And on that tab, you have a mount over here for your choke, just like this has. And then in the middle, I can't talk, I'm pretty sure is where the ignition switch went. Now, it's just from looking at the shop manual. Pretty sure that's how it was. I've never honestly owned or ridden a Sportster from 1990. But I could have done that, but the problem is the ignition switch that we're running that's spring-loaded. The spring-loaded switches are significantly bigger diameter than the factory ones, and it just wasn't going to fit in there right. So since we had to find a spot for the ignition switch, I figured why not just buy this guy, because we already had to have a way to get our choke cable on there. So I found this one on eBay for $17. So to me, that was a good compromise. Plus, it allows me to run a left side petcock and run the fuel line straight down through there. So that's why we went with it. There are some really cool options, though, in the aftermarket, like TC Bros, Lowbrow. I'm starting to forget some of these places. So you got a lot of good options there, but you know, it's just more money, right? And I'm trying to be budget on this bike as best as possible. Well, we just got our little part in so we can get this cover on. That was good timing. And get this thing sealed up once and for all. All of our gaskets on. Got our little thrust washer we had to order. Let's toss this guy on. All right. Well, already having problems. There we go. And of course, you gotta get this spring up under here. There we are. That went pretty easy, shockingly. Well, I reckon we'll get this stuff torqued down like it's supposed to be. Probably not a bad idea. Well, the cover's off, and it was just on, so this can't be good, right? I actually had an oopsie moment, or one of those stuff happens moments right here. So I got to the last bolt, and I always set my torque wrench on stuff like this on the lowest end. So this is, I think, 80 to 110 inch-pounds. I was set on 80. Didn't even get to 80, and all the threads in here just snapped right off. So that's unfortunate, and I wanted to show you guys this because, you know, this kind of stuff happens. It's going to happen. I don't know if this was my fault. I don't know if this was the fault of whoever had it before. It doesn't really matter. The fact is we need to fix it or else it's going to leak. I do think it's going to be relatively easy to fix, especially since it's one of those holes where the dowel pin goes. So I'll just get me a helicoil or helicoil, however you say it, and fix these up. I don't know if I can get them locally or if I got to order them, but either way, it happened, so we'll get it fixed. But for now, what we'll do is we'll just close all this up with the cover to keep it protected and just move on to some other stuff. Well, surely I can get this headlight back on without snapping some threads. You would think, right? Switching gears on you guys here a little bit, moving on to this gas tank because I got to get the decals on this thing so we can move forward on it. But right now we got the paint on it, obviously, and we'll get the decals on, and from there we'll shoot the clear. Now, if you're new to the channel, you don't know our process for this in this garage, it is basic. This is all rattle can. I got a really good friend of mine that lives across the street. He does the paint and the clear coat on these. I get the fun, of course, of putting the decal on. And, you know, it turns out pretty good. I mean, if you do it right and you take your time and use primer and try to do, you know, the best that you can, it'll look pretty good. I mean, it won't be factory, it won't be perfect, but it'll be pretty presentable for the money. Now, in this tank, this is obviously the one that came on it. Unfortunately, it's got a bad hole in it, and it's also full of rust. I looked and looked and looked. I could not freaking find this guy right here anywhere. I think I might have found one of them by itself on eBay, but it's like over $100 just for that, and I ain't doing that. Also found one that had 5-speed right here, but this is a 4-speed model. So instead, I get this guy, I found this. I think it's close enough, and it's going to look good. Maybe not as good on the black paint as that one did, but I think it's going to bring it around a little bit. I am a sucker for these factory style decals. I just love the nostalgia. So if you're really on a budget and you're really trying to be cheap, you could probably put, a Bar and Shield logo right there off Amazon for what, less than $10 and clear coat over it. But what I got to do now is I got to figure out alignment. So I'm going to measure this one and come up with like 5,000 different math equations to figure out, where all it needs to go and everything. And once I get done with that, we'll get these decals on. This is the delicate part of the operation. I can somehow tape this back here. Of course, when you do this part, make sure you scratch your paint really good, right? And now the point of no turning back. In case you guys are wondering, this is where I get these decals from, discontinued decals, and they even give you these cool little squeegees that work really good. Let's see if this other side will behave like the first one did. Yeah, the squeegees really, man, it makes a difference, and you can reuse those on a lot of things. And they give you one every time you buy, so if I keep this up, I might have a whole collection. All right. Absolutely loving how this looks. We got one more side to do, so I'll get the measurements done for that one and see if we can't get this knocked out. Well, aside from all the crazy measurements that we had to do, the decals went on pretty smooth. They turned out pretty good. So we'll get a few coats of clear shot on this tank and it'll be ready for the bike. Well, let's see if we can get these threads fixed on this primary. No better feeling, right, than drilling right through your crankcase. Just like doing surgery. It does help, though, that this aluminum is soft. Well, come on now, get started. There she goes. A little bit more. Let's see here. I think that'll work. Let's do a test here. Let's see if a bolt will thread in here. Just like new. All right. I think we're in good shape. Our thread should be fixed, and we're going to try to torque this thing down again. I am going to approach it a little different and use this guy right here. This torque wrench only goes to 65 inch-pounds. This is supposed to be, I think, 80 to 110. I'm just trying to be careful, and this thing's very precise, and it stops immediately when you hit it. I think I just maybe got too carried away on this one, but honestly, it may have popped anyway, even with this tool right here. So we're going to give it a shot and see what happens. And the good thing is if you do something like this and you torque it too low and you get a little weeping, you can take an Allen key and just turn it, like maybe 1/8 of a turn, and it'll usually stop it. Well, I think our thread fix is going to hold, which we'll find out soon enough if she's going to leak on us. I still got to adjust the clutch as well as the primary chain. I'm actually going to wait on the clutch because I want to get the clutch lever mounted up there first. So I'll just wait and do both of those a little later on. So we are going to wrap up this video right here. So as far as where we go next, I think we're just going to start throwing some parts on her at this point, probably starting with the wheels, which means everything on this bike, I think at that point, is going to start going pretty quick. And, she's going to start looking like an actual bike again. One thing I do want to do for you guys is get you an update on that tank here soon. My buddy's already shot some clear on it, and it's looking really, really good. So at a minimum, I hope to at least get a short out for you guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I just said a moment ago, we're going to start throwing a lot of parts at this bike, and I think it's going to start coming together soon. But not to worry, we've got another one lurking here in the garage that we're going to be starting on soon as well. So if you want to catch those future videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. As always, I thank you guys so much for watching. We'll chat with you next time.